Hi, today I woke up in the morning, saw an email and a special request from a friend. He said that he wants the last emperors of Japan's palm reading. So he also sent me this picture. I like this picture because it shows like many things which prove that you don't have to have a very strong fate line or sun line, etc., to have power. Now, basically, what happens in the case of royalty, right? And in the case of very powerful royalty, like even royalty has its divisions. There's like the lower royalty, and the higher you go, there's a hierarchy, just like hierarchy of businessmen, hierarchy of politicians in a democracy. There is a hierarchy. So let's see. So basically, first of all, we notice that the fate line is very faint. There is a faint line here, but it's very faint. Now I just drew it to show you. Now what happens when the fate line is faint, and you notice this when you live in a monarchy system, or you live in a system where uh, you meet the lower level monarchies, right? Or you get across them. You see their hands from afar. You see their hands in pictures like that, right? And any most of the palmists would know. And when you're starting out, you will always be like, oh, if the fate line is there, and then you will check every celebrity's fate line if it's there or not. But in the end, you realize maybe it will take you a year, maybe it won't take you a day, of course, but it will maybe take you 6 months, a year to realize that fate line, sun line is not everything. When you're aspiring palmist, and also when you're a lay person but you want to know about palmistry, you don't want to pursue it, then you also eventually find out by looking at watching YouTube videos. Of course, I'm not the best there is. There are so many who I have learned from, and if you mostly, of course, they have more viewers, so you would be watching their videos before you come to my channel. So of course, they would always know better. So then you also can read the books. There are so many available. So there's that. But the thing is, when you come to the hand, actually, you figure out some things, like how the person is, how the person's thoughts are formed. So here we see that the fate line is not that strong. The sun line is actually taking over the fate line. And what happens is that basically fate line is effort. Fate line is the effort you exert. So it's not like this person did not exert effort, but he had a lot of backup. But I would also say that this person is extremely smart. He is also very well educated, and he did not go another way. He did when he came into power, I was reading about him that he did many things differently. After his marriage was televised, the first royal marriage to be televised, and 15 million viewers watched it. And then he also was the first emperor, king, etc., to visit all the 47 prefectures of Japan. So here we see what's different is in this person is that the fate line is not as strong, because if we see fate line goes towards Saturn, right? So Saturn is the domain of financial stability. Saturn makes a person very, very materialistic. Okay, so what is happening here? This person is not working for money, or even if we take the money aspect fully out, if we see this person as someone who is going to carry out his dad's duty, like suppose there's an army general, so his son would the one who would have a, because of his thoughts, would have a strong fate line. That type of person would expect from himself to carry out his father's legacy. Like, my father was like this, he was very very strict and disciplined, so I want to show my disciplinary, like my disciplined personality. So that tends to happen. But here in this case, what you see, this person is very easygoing, not only because of his lifestyle but in general, because what happens is there are so many royals out there who won't have this type of hand, who would be in power and not have this type of hand. I can't remember off the top of my head, because I do read royal palms, but no one has ever requested, so I never thought of like, oh, okay, you want a royal palm reading, okay, I'll go for it. So that's why I'm like espousing my views right now on what I've learned. Of course, I could be totally wrong about this as well. So here we see that again, with the headline and lifeline are joined for a considerable period, because the thing is that the person follows tradition. When the head and lifeline are joined, majority of the person with this type of head and lifeline joint combination would be going for tradition. They would be following what their forefathers did, and they would be following. So of course the person won't do anything to jeopardize his chances at ascending the throne. And so many do it. Like, if you just watch the British royal dramas or something, so many do it for love. So many do it for some other reason, like they don't want to inherit the throne, and you'll be like, oh, just inherit the throne and go the right way, because there are people, even you look at yourself, you might be going somewhere else than intended, like this is the easier option. But of course, if you're doing it for love, if you're doing it because we all have our own intentions that we won't know ourselves that why we're doing this. So it depends. So again, this is the person, again, everything is to personality. I want to make the point clear that when I read poems, I always look at personality, because personality is what forms action. Personality is what dictates future. Life is like 5% what happens and 95% your reaction to it. So that's why it's the concept of wherever you are, and if the environment is also friendly, like because he is born on 23rd December, and there are so many like Capricorns who did followed the path which he followed, but then when it came, because what happens is when the head and lifeline separate, in the 30s, or so the person, what happens is that they start to think for themselves mostly. They know they're getting the throne, but they're also thinking for themselves. So in the case of like I won't name now because it will become very political charged discussion. But in the case of many, especially Capricorn people, like he was, they in politics, what happens is when it's their chance to take a risk, the environment does not support them. Literally, the social environment that does not support them. And I'll just narrow it down to this person comes from a developed country, right? And developed country means high human development index. They have a very high human development index, Japan. And if we look at most countries in South Asia, they do not have a high the HDI, human development index, because what happens is everyone is like, because the countries are, like we have to say, the countries are so corrupt. Like literally, you can just start now. What happens is when I start this, people start comparing each country to each other. But I'm not even. I'm just saying the region itself is very corrupt. Itself fully, Asia is also corrupt. Like even if you say Asia is a very corrupt nation, because we have achieved independence very late from the Western countries. They achieved it many years ago. So we are still in the learning process. Maybe after 100 years, 200 years, we will be at that level where the whole HTI of South Asia will be risen. You never know. But again, if we are to compare, like if we see Asia, we even see take South Korea's case. Their last 4 presidents are charged for corruption, with 2 of them actually sitting in jail. So even if you look at South Korea, you look at the people who's K-pop, who made K-pop, even their own people are like, the people in the high position, they're like this. So I'm just saying what happens is when you get into that position, the mentality is like that I'm in the position, I am going to take the advantages of this. But there does come along a person who does not think like this. But then society tries to make him think like this. So you get my point, that the environment does affect the person. It does affect the person to some degree. And what happens is eventually the person either retreats from society or just moves to another country. And if they don't get the chance, then they just turn out like the others. It's like a very complicated process. It depends on the hand, but I know you get what I'm saying. So here we see in the case of the country, a person who has a very the society has a very high human development index, right? So here we see that the sun line is forming. Now sun line, what is the sun line? The sun line is the line of happiness. The fate line is the line of satisfaction. Now this person is already satisfied because the fate line is the perfect color. Even if the picture is not clear, I can see that the fate line is between light and dark. It's the perfect color. Tom Cruise has a similar fate line. You can Google it and check. It's between light and dark. So it's the perfect color. Color of the fate line is very important. If it's too light, you're not putting your own effort too much. Actually, you're not putting your effort in the right direction. Sorry, that's to be correct. And if it's too dark, then you're putting too much effort in whatever direction you are. But if it's in the perfect color, it doesn't matter if it's long, strong, as long as it's not broken. As long as it's not broken. So here I can clearly see it's not broken, just in the case of Tom Cruise. So you're putting in the right amount of effort in the right direction. So that is key. That's why color also changes over time. If we even see here, the color is becoming stronger over time. So here we see that the sunlight starts from alongside the fate line, which is very rare. This means that this person was born, of course, into royalty, because the sun shone on him, right? The sun is when it graces us, it gives us its power. Apollo is the sun, so it is giving us the power of royalty. Now we can't deny this person was born into our household, and the hand also shows that he was born into wealth. It shows in the hand. It's something we can't deny. We can't go and say, oh no, this is not like this, and it's not like that. But the thing is, the person's overall hand is also different. If we see that the fingers don't show a want of power or anything, they are short. This just means that the person, even though this person is quite educated and has written even research papers, he just does what his heart says. And again, we see here that the Venus mount is also taking a lot of space. So you know that this person has a lot of love to give, right? The hand itself is very, loving and caring. There's a lot of love and care shown by this hand. And alongside that, we also see that the thumb is also of a good length. Now what happens is, this person also has this flaws. One is that this person was very lucky that he got the power late. Because what happens is, if this person had gotten maybe gotten the throne early on, maybe he wouldn't have been able to handle it, because the fingers are on the very short side. Along with that, the finger of Jupiter we see is low set. Now what happens is, in the case of imagine this person was both had prime ministerial powers and the, like, he had the constitutional powers and the monarchical powers. What would happen, that this person could have become a bit of a dictator. See, that's what palmistry is. Now people will be like, oh my god, this cannot happen, this could not happen. But the thing is, we cannot deny that the little finger, the first finger is low set, which shows a want of power. So what happens is, I always suggest people who have this kind of finger to not go into the most powerful position. Make sure that they go into the second. If they go into the most powerful position, make sure that they have either a loving partner or someone who mentors them. Because what happens is, these people can become dictator like, or become very towards conservative. They will start off liberal, but they will go towards conservatism. They will start off even between liberal and conservative, but they will go towards too much traditional, and they will lose what they started. They started as a very freedom loving person and stuff, but then power changes them. So power is not very good in the hand where the first finger is too short. But here in the case, if we see this person is still a risk taker, the risk taking ability is very strong. Look at the Apollo finger. And again, another issue which I have this hand is that there is a sensitive pads over the finger. So that the sensitive people, they also are better off when they're, they're given time. Like, he knew that at this age I will do this, at this age I will do that. At 19 he became crown prince, right, of Japan. So that means that there was early on, there was signs of success. But instead of, fighting for the throne, or like, I want the throne, this person chose the, I would say that the easy way to get the throne. So this is what happens, that when the person follows tradition in a society where tradition is rewarded. East Asia is a very traditional society. Maybe they're like even an extremely traditional society, if you can say. That is what separates them from South Asia, because South Asians, no matter how traditional they are, they are their tradition is like, it can be questioned. That's a long story. We'll save it for some other time. So here we see that the little finger, there are also pointedness. The pointedness of the little finger shows that this person is an idealist. So he lives in an ideal world and stuff. So this person in the real world, things would have been different. One, I don't think he would have born with a fate line and sun line like this. Like, literally the sun line is starting from the wrist, and the fate line itself is starting from the wrist. But sun line from the wrist, it's very rare. I think after a long time, or maybe even the first time I'm seeing the sun line from the wrist, because I've read about it but never seen. So here we see again that the sun line, now the most interesting part. Now this person, we see clearly he is putting the right amount of effort, right? He's balanced. He's studying to become the emperor. He's getting married to become the emperor. Now what happens here is that late in life, we would say that he got it at 57, right? He was crowned king in 57, but he did get the fate line is getting stronger before that. So maybe he did some initiatives he was following, because in his heart he's a philanthropist. So he might be following those things, philanthropy, etc. But what is happening is that suddenly in the 50s the line becomes strong. Now what happens is, now many people would be like, the line became strong, so he is getting all the gains from life. No. I remember the line is getting dark. So what is happening? He is putting effort. He might be also putting too much effort, because what happens is, when you become king, right, you can't help but put too much effort. That's the problem. Because what happens is, suppose you're becoming president, right? So you would have to put too much effort into what you're doing. So at that stage, what I'm actually against the dark lines is that when you have everything, and suppose the line is becoming dark at a very young age, and the rest of the hand is not that strong. Like, if the line is dark and the headline is weak, or the lifeline is weak, what happens is that you're overworking yourself to the bone. But here we see, even though this line is strong, we see that the heart line is not broken at all, the headline is not broken at all, the lifeline is not broken at all. We can clearly see that those lines are strong. So this is why that even if there is hard work involved, if your foundation, if your constitution is capable to handle it, then by all means it's fine. Then by all means it's fine, you can do it. So here we see that as well. We can also see in the case of Robert Downey Jr. He also has like the fate line starting late on his form, the sun line starting late. But in the case, we see his headline and lifeline, even though whatever happened to him, we have to see whatever happened to him, he went to rehab, etc. His lines are so strong, the baselines are heart, head and lifeline, right? The baselines, which don't fully change ever. So that means that the person already has the character to deal with these things. So there's that as well. Now going back to the sunlight, now we know he ascended the throne in the 50s, and in the 50s itself, because here when the sunlight usually reaches, it is 54. So in the 50s itself, he started, but the good thing is that his fate line is, this Saturn mount itself is not that strong. So this person is non-traditional, like he is following the tradition set by his parents, right? He is close to his parents, that we can see by the headline lifeline combination. But when he got power, he like as I said, this person, he was born very liberal. He was born more liberal than usual, as I've seen of the hardline politicians, hardline kings, hardline royals. So we see that this person was able to achieve his objectives because of the sunline, because some people don't even have the sunline, so they're unhappy. So he achieved happiness. And what the sunline and fate line show, that fate line shows satisfaction in your life, sunline shows happiness. The point, and happiness is the main goal. Even if you don't have a sunline, don't be like, oh, I don't have a sunline, I won't find happiness. There is more ways to find that. Your hand could be, you could already be content. You might not, because you might not be a king ever, like in the sense of him, because you know he was expected. There were expectations on him, right? He also had expectations on himself, even if you remove the other expectations. But the thing is that you don't need a fate line, sun line, any other line. Not a single line. You don't need a cross, you don't need a triangle, you don't need anything to be successful, because success, happiness is a state of mind. Literally, it's a state of mind. I have read so many poems, I have consulted so many people have consulted me regarding this. Or yeah, sorry, I meant I've consulted so many poemists who are higher than me. I've you know, guided people have asked for my advice. But the thing is that I'll tell you completely that if person is after money, if their main goal is money, then love will be left out if they don't balance it. So the main process is to find happiness, and I think the main the way to get it is a work-life balance, literally, because we all have to work. Everyone has to work in this lifetime. Either there be a royal, president, etc. Their work will be there. The whole country is in the palm of this person's hand, in a way. So we see that as well, and we also see the happiness by the Apollo taking a lot of space on the hand, becoming one of the strongest mounts. So this person leaves good first impressions. This person is popular or was popular during this reign. Again, I don't know much about him. I can also see a very strong line going actually into the finger from it's going into Jupiter, so that also shows leadership. So all the signs are there. But the good thing about this person is that at heart he is a caring person, and he doesn't let his emotions guide him, because what is here, if we see the heartline controlling. So mostly what happens is people with a strong Apollo and Apollo dominance, they can get out of hand when they get power, etc. So what handles this is the heartline being very, very straight. The more straight it is, the more the person has hold over his emotions. And that doesn't mean that the person having a heartline which is the opposite won't have those things. Like if it's curving, he won't have those things. That will, then we have to look at the rest of the hand. Like I can see his whole hand, I cannot only see the heartline. So he has a control over his emotions. We also see that I really like that the headline here is going downwards in the end, because what happens is, even though what happens is the more downwards it goes, the more the person becomes non-materialistic. If we had seen this person's headline maybe going across the hand, he would have gone all the way to ensure that there was money for himself, etc. But he's a very fair person. He would be a bit very stubborn itself, and that is maybe a reason he did not change. Another reason he did not change gaining power, because you see this thumb, the first phalange is very strong, and the distance between the heartline and headline are very limited, showing that this person has difficulty taking into consideration another person's point of view. Basically, he's stubborn. Yeah. So we see that maybe the stubbornness aspect worked out in the end. And we also have remember the pointed fingers. These two fingers are pointed. The finger of leadership is pointed. The finger of expression and everything is pointed. So there's this as well. And the finger of Mercury is long. This is also very helpful when you gain power, right? Because you might misuse it if the little finger is not long, in the case that the Jupiter finger is not that strong regarding to him. So overall, this poem shows that the environment does change the person, and that we also see that this person, he did not try to improve his lifestyle at that much. Like he got whatever he got from inheritance. But we also see the headline going downwards and the lifeline. You see, it's becoming very light here towards the 40s or 50s, or we could just say straightforward 50s when he. I would say, sorry, I would say 40s, because the sunline is also the strongest, starting to get strong at the 40s. So basically 40s onwards, this person stopped caring about materialism, stopped caring about money itself. So here we see that this anyway, this was the first time I did a palm reading, video palm reading of a royal. I have checked out their hands, so I really enjoyed it, and I want to thank my friend who sent me the photo and requested it. It was a very different experience for me. Hope you all enjoyed this as well. Thank you and have a very nice day ahead.